guys, this is Ruslan, and you are listening to the Snotbear podcast. In this session, we have uh, the vocalist for multinational corporations and bands like Dead Bhutttos, and also he has this rap group called Daranti Group now, residing in Germany. Hassan Amin, what's up, man? How is life?
Yo, life is good, man. What's up with you?
Yeah, man, it's all good, except for the lockdown that has started from yesterday. Apart from that, everything is. I mean, yeah, it's good, man. It's all good.
Okay, okay.
How are things in Germany now?
How's the
How is the
COVID
COVID
situation over
situation in
there?
Germany now? How is the COVID situation there? Yeah, man. How is the COVID situation there, man?
It's over here. It's like getting worse daily, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like I think at its worst since a long time. And like the strain from England has also come
yeah.
here.
So
So like,
yeah, yeah, man.
yeah.
And you're just back from work now.
Now I don't have a job these days. They fired me. So
Oh,
just doing some other
I
stuff.
understand. I know how it feels, man. I know
Yeah,
how it
yeah, yeah.
feels.
I mean,
So,
COVID times
so
really
I'm gonna,
the job. Yeah,
yeah, man. So I'm gonna start with like everyone. I mean, people who are gonna listen to this podcast, because not a lot of people are gonna listen to this podcast, but people who are gonna listen to this podcast, they know you, and they pretty much, if they have seen the Extreme Nation movie, or even if they have not, they know how where you are from, your affiliations with bands like multinational corporations. Before that, you had Foreskin,
yeah,
and you also had some noise acts like Kafir Azam, Nihilist Holiday. We all know that. So, and then you moved to another country, and how is that? How is music in general going on for you now? And what is you also now? You also now have a rap group called Daranti Group. You are also rapping now. So tell me that transition between genres that you had throughout your musical career, man.
yeah. Like first of all, I wasn't in Kafre Azam. I don't know the people who were in that band, but they were a good band. And
Yeah,
apart from that, like yeah, like I don't really think of it as like transitioning between genres or whatever. Like look, man, my only motivation
yeah,
to make music in Pakistan was just because the genres I liked didn't exist. So I always tried to create the
yeah,
genres in Pakistan that weren't really existing. You know, like we didn't have crossover thrash, so I made foreskin. We didn't have grindcore, so I made multinational corporations. You know, like we didn't have
yeah,
hardcore crust punk, so we made dead Bhutttos, or like not made, like
yeah,
rather took the old band name that Bastard
yeah,
we had and just revamped it completely, right? And we didn't have
yeah.
boom bap, so we made the Runti Group. So that's always been like my prime motivation making music.
But there have been quite a few rappers from Pakistan that I've heard with some rappers that are really, really good. So there have already been a rap scene before you started the
Yeah,
Ranti
but
group.
there wasn't like any group that was just dedicated to working with
All
boom
right,
bap production, you know.
there were separate rappers and all, but it was all
Yeah,
a
like
big like
it was a very
clustered.
like, when we started the Ranti group, it was a very like commercial hip hop influenced scene. You know, people would call themselves underground, but they're actually trying to make commercial music. And we were
Yeah,
just
of
like,
course.
we
Yeah,
just want to make strict like limit ourselves to like a specific sound and genre. This early
yeah.
'90s, late '80s style of hip hop, and we just like we did it our own way. We added like desi samples and like different stuff in between. So yeah, and
But do you
nowadays in
think targeting?
to do boom bap. So
Yeah, man. Yeah. I know. I've listened to your latest last track, man. And it was amazing. It was amazing. So I think I texted you after I heard that. It was
yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah,
So, but what I was trying to tell you with Daranti Group or any other genres that you are doing or anything that you're doing, if and this is a question that I ask to a lot of people. I mean, even subconsciously, sometimes we only project our music or the content that we create. We project it towards only a certain audience. I mean, if you're not going mainstream, you're going for a certain audience. Do
yeah.
you think this limits our creativity in a sense So that I mean, if you are projecting out things to only a certain kind, catering to only a certain kind of audience, do you think it limits our creativity in
Ab- ab-
creating
ab-
more music?
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. Because, for
Yeah,
example, there isn't any one kind of scientist, right? There are different
yeah,
fields of science, and different people who
yeah,
specialize in different fields. And like you'll have
yeah,
archaeologists, linguists, anthropologists, blah 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 blah. They're all doing different things, and doing like a specific thing that isn't really limiting them. Rather, it's allowing them to open new doors and new understanding in that specific frame. I think we need to understand as artists and as creative people that no one genre is ever limited. Like if you're doing it your own way, and you're trying to
yeah,
push its boundaries more, then it's not exactly limiting you, is it? There are people who
yeah,
want to do all kinds of music with their rap music. They want to do trap music, drill music, boom bap,
yeah,
everything,
yeah,
commercial, underground, but
yeah,
they're doing very basic stuff in all those genres. So I think them
yeah.
to do everything is actually limiting them in that case. They're not
Yeah.
allowing themselves to get deeply
So you
involved.
you think being involved in only a certain kind of involving yourself with only a certain kind of audience makes you discover that art form in a more detailed way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you should. And if you're not doing that, then you're doing it wrong, you know?
Yeah. So how have you transitioned yourself into a rapper? Because that is like a completely different thing. I mean, from singing to rapping, how did that happen? How did you start writing? Because there is rapping, you'll have to have. I mean, you'll have to have strong lyrics with rap. That is
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
people relate with rap. So
Like
how did that happen?
if you
Because your lyrics for multinational corporations were also very strong lyrics.
yeah, yeah,
One of the things that I love about that EP was it had also the song that you guys released after that, Esas Jurm, it has really strong lyrics.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I want to know about that. How did you transfer that into your hip hop side?
Okay, dude, so what one of the main things of hip hop culture is to like be able to freestyle, right? Write lyrics on the
Yeah,
spot, come up with lyrics on the spot. That's
yeah,
essentially how we wrote lyrics for Foreskin and multinational corporations. Like there would be some
yeah,
lyrics that I had already written and I'd used, but like songs like Jamaat Moth, songs like Isas
yeah,
they were done in like minutes, because
yeah,
like I was already into hip hop music growing up. Like hip hop was a big part of my musical upbringing. And in Foreskin, even in early Foreskin stuff, you can hear a lot of hip hop influence, right? We had the
yeah,
whole
yeah, yeah,
we had the whole cult shit going on in South Asia, right? So we were like, fuck that, we want to be more
yeah.
real. So we made this thug, and that was a big hip hop influence there.
So I also remember you hitting yourself and that picture you posted. It was probably around 2014 or 15. I forgot that you punched yourself and it was you bleeding. I think it was a Foreskin show. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Foreskin
yeah,
was
yeah,
still active at that time.
yeah,
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 I
exactly,
remember that show, man.
exactly,
It
yeah.
was yeah,
Yeah, bro. So yeah, like our whole thing was like we don't take shit. And if you're making crossover thrash music, you automatically have some kind of affinity with hip hop because
yeah,
the genres of crossover thrash, hardcore punk, and hip hop they all came out of New York.
yeah,
And there was a time like if you look at 80s crossover thrash bands like Leeway, their vocalist was
yeah,
like
yeah,
a former b-boy, the drummer was in the hip hop scene, and there was
yeah, yeah.
always this kind of cross pollination of these subcultures, and I
Dude,
was
I
always very
feel I
inspired by
just discovered an album.
yeah.
I never knew that Didi Ramones has a rap album. I
Oh,
never knew that, and I discovered that a few days ago, and it fucking blew me away, man.
it's probably horrible.
It is. That is what blew me away, man. So yeah, you were telling me about yeah. I mean, I
And
get it. I
like
get the influence.
there's
Black
something
hip
that I
hop.
haven't ever said in any podcast, and I'll tell this for you. There is a
Yeah, man.
band from America's death metal scene called Ripping Corpse. Um, you know
Yeah, yeah,
the Eric Rutan from Hate Eternal and Morbid
yeah,
Angel.
yeah. Of course.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Eric
He also
Rutan
plays for Carnival Corpse now.
yeah, exactly. So Eric Rutan, it was his first band, but he wasn't the main songwriter in the band. They had another guitarist
Yeah,
who was the main songwriter, and I became friends with that guy on Facebook. I don't know how. I was just a kid, 18
yeah,
years old, right?
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
he introduced me to a lot of New York hardcore, like Agnostic Front, Cro-Mags and stuff. And one day I saw him post like this Wu-Tang Clan song, right? And at that time, the only rap I knew
Yeah,
was post stuff like Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and I had kind of grown
yeah.
out of it, and I was in this, like rap music is just this
What
one
else is
kind
there?
of phase. Then this guy showed me Wu-Tang Clan, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? This is like metal, this is just raw beats, fucking crazy,
Yeah,
violent, motherfucking insane rhymes, you know? So,
yeah,
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 so that was when I heard Wu Tang Clan for the first time. I knew that, like, if I ever make rap music, it has to be like Wu Tang Clan. No questions asked, no doubt about it. So,
yeah.
yeah,
So, why did it take you such why did you take such a long route to the Ranti Group? I mean, you did foreskin, you did
yeah, like, have
a
you heard?
lot of stuff, and then it took you a lot of time to
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
into the rap scene. Why that? Why did that
Have you
happen?
heard? Have you heard the Foreskin song "Hack and Slash" from the Anger Management
I,
demo, 2012?
uh, I'm not sure. I've heard
Okay.
your releases. I've probably heard a split from Foreskin. Did you
Okay.
guys release a split?
With Mawali from
Yeah,
Nepal.
yeah, 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 yeah. The split with Mawali. Yeah,
But yeah, so like that was 2012. It was like a crazy, almost black thrash slash traditional doom
yeah,
slash crossover kind of
yeah,
song, right? But anyway, I had when that song was made by Shiraz and Amar, I had already quit Foreskin in a way, right? Like in my mind, and I told the boys too that I don't want to have anything to do with metal. I want to go towards rap music, and I'd already started making rap music in 2012. I had some demos online. I had also had the crew called
yeah.
Mad Youth, and I was also like in touch with a lot of rappers from Karachi and Lahore. I had even had a little diss feud with the famous guy in Lahore who's now dead. God rest his soul. So like it wasn't that
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
came into the Ranti group like very late. Like I had already set my rap foundation, but Shiraz and Amar they told me like, bro, this song is waiting. We just need your vocals on it. And the song came out so good. Like I was like, fuck rap, let's just do metal. And then the multinational corporations and Jamaat Moth, that thing happened too. So
Yeah, yeah,
and
that
that Bhutttos
went
happened as
that took
well.
the entire Pakistan. I would say that took the entire Pakistan's entire scene to another level, man. That EP was really
Yeah,
groundbreaking. I still listen to that EP quite a lot.
thank you, man, thank you. And yeah, like
And before that, the only Pakistani band I knew was Dusk. So I didn't know whether there was a scene or whether there were other bands.
yeah,
But I came to know Foreskin, and then the
yeah,
Jamata EP happened, and then I got to know you in that way.
yeah, yeah, man,
So
exactly.
speaking of Shiraz, man, because I have heard quite some of your podcasts and your live sessions. Speaking of Shiraz, I want to speak about him.
Yeah,
He has been with you. He has been doing music with you specifically for quite a long time now. He has his own band. He has his own doom metal band. I've heard his
yeah, yeah,
releases from Transcending. I also had the CD,
yeah.
but he has been doing music with you particularly for quite a long time. So how has been the relationship with working and he's such a fucking talented guy, and how has been the relationship between you two guys, and how has been the journey with Shiraz?
Yeah, Shiraz been like a great guy to make music with. Like we were friends before we made music, so there was always good chemistry among us. And yeah, like he's the kind of guy who knows exactly what kind of vibe to hit, like in the music. He knows how to
I
make
mean,
grind
he's been in foreskin,
some death
right?
metal. Yeah. Like he didn't start Foreskin, he joined later. Me and
Yeah,
Amar
yeah,
started Foreskin, and when Shiraz joined, he took up the songwriting and everything. And like
yeah.
the thing about Shiraz is like, whatever project he joins, he takes complete ownership of it as like, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
like, like as
Yeah, I get
anyone
it.
should, like you should never be a side player in any band. You should be active and
Yeah,
involved.
yeah.
Take the project
And
as
that
your
is
own.
quite important.
Yeah, exactly. And so me and Shiraz, like then Amar got out of the band, and then Foreskin and multinational corporations were just us two. Like there was that period as well.
Yeah,
So essentially, they're the same band in a way. Foreskin and multinational corporations. It's just
yeah.
different genres. Even a lot of stuff
Making
in the
yeah.
Jamaat Moth EP, you can hear a clear foreskin transition, like songs like
Yeah,
Advertise.
yes, that is what I was going to.
Just
It's quite similar to
yeah, just
if you compare the Jamatal Moth EP with the Mawali split. You can literally hear
exactly
a lot of influence.
specifically the Mawali split song "How to Fight," because
Yeah,
you have to remember, like there was this big kind of dark hardcore movement going on internationally at the time too. Like
yeah,
you have bands like
exactly.
Homewrecker, Harm's Way, Nails, and all that stuff. And in Nepal, you had
And you
Juga.
also had this crazy bands, Nepali. Yeah, exactly, man. That is
Exactly.
Juga, this band.
Yeah,
And then we had from bands like India, bands from India like I forgot this name. Death by Fungi, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It was a
yeah.
great band. I don't know whether they're still alive,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was a
They're
great
still
band.
around. They've released like some stuff too. Like I think their last release was Down Bombay. But yeah, yeah. Like there was all that influence going right. So like you could easily
Yeah,
put How to Fight in the Jamaat al Moth stuff too, in a way. Because if you listen to the vocal style, I have the same vocal style in both the Jamaat al Moth and the How
yeah,
to Fight tracks.
yeah,
So
yeah. So now you are in a different country. Are you doing music there now?
yeah,
Is
I'm
anything
recording
happening around?
recording hip hop in my room. Apart from that, I have two bands.
Yeah,
One is like a hardcore power violence, sludge, death, doom, that kind of
yeah,
metal punkity
yeah,
band,
yeah,
and that's going on really well. We have some really nice songs. Then there's a crust punk band, DB kind of band, which has
yeah.
lyrics in Farsi, Urdu, Punjabi, Pashto, and a lot of languages. We just a kind of like making a third world punk band with that one.
So do you have are these members all Germans or do you have people from other countries
Like
also?
the first band called Bitter Incision, which I told you about, the power violence band.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, man.
it's all Germans. It's all German people.
Yeah,
But the other band,
yeah,
like the drummer, like it's not that we are flaunting our race or whatever. Like it's just a
yeah, yeah,
coincidence that we all have some mixed origins. I'm a Pakistani immigrant. The guitarist is a Colombian immigrant, and the drummer is like
yeah,
an Anglo-Iranian guy. So like
yeah.
obviously like not being
Then
white,
you guys are
white,
all in Germany. Yeah,
yeah, like
of course,
and
yeah,
not being white in a white dominated country, it allows you like a different
yeah,
perspective of things, as the same is with any
yeah.
minority in any country, like if
Any
you
minority.
if you talk about Bangladesh with the tribals of Bangladesh, they'll give you a different opinion,
Yeah,
obviously. Same with
different
like the
opinion, of
minorities of
course.
Pakistan. So it's
Yeah,
it's not that our race is making us special, it's just that we happen to be minorities and our perspectives are kind of
yeah.
different, like with that band.
From the
we
others.
don't
Yeah,
want to be we
yeah,
don't want to label ourselves as an anti-fa band, as a feminist, vegan, queer, punk, whatever band, like we would
yeah,
rather let the lyrics speak. That we don't need those stickers as a
yeah,
label of approval.
yeah.
We support all that
And
stuff.
you'd rather let the
If
audience
we are
label you
singing,
guys.
yeah, yeah, we support all that stuff. We are singing about all that stuff. We are doing all that stuff as a like my daily life is anti-fascist, bro. Why do I have to put that
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the name of my band? This is an anti-fascist band.
yeah,
Like obviously it's a fucking
yeah,
anti-fascist band. We're involved.
yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So
So, um, apart from music, I think what I wanted to discuss with you in this podcast, and it was about pro wrestling. You are a huge pro wrestling fan, like I am. So, how did you get into this wrestling? How wrestling scene? I mean, how did you first get to know this WWE? Was it any other promotion,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
how was the journey? How did it all start?
Dude, as a kid, uh, I remember very clearly. I was in third grade or second grade. Everyone in school was just talking about just in the assembly. Like when you have to stand for the national anthem. Do you
Yeah,
have it in Bangladesh?
yeah, yeah. Of course.
Before
Yeah,
the
yeah.
national
Same,
anthem,
same, man. Same.
obviously all the
Before
kids.
the class starts, before
Yeah,
all the kids stand.
and all
yeah.
the kids are just talking, like before the teacher comes in to
Are
start.
just talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I am hearing these things constantly, like Undertaker, Triple H. I thought it was Triple H, not H. And The Rock, Stone Cold. I'm hearing these names and I'm thinking, fuck, these things sound so cool. What are they talking about? And I asked
yeah,
the guy in the assembly, like, what's this? He says it's WWF. And I thought it was like that panda shit, that panda organization. I thought he was talking about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, what?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I didn't understand, but then I just every day I tried to find out more, like about what the fuck
yeah,
is this WWF, asking different people, and those kids were trying to be too cool, they weren't letting me in their wrestling circle, but
yeah, yeah,
I found out anyway through my relatives and blah blah. At the time, WCW was
yeah,
just ending, just finishing, and in my family, everyone wanted to watch Goldberg, so I was more accustomed to
yeah,
WCW right at the end. But like I
yeah,
used to think WWF was more cooler. Somehow the characters were
yeah.
lot more
The
badass.
characters were a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And as a kid, seeing stuff like Undertaker and Kane and all those storylines,
yeah,
that really draws you in. So yeah,
yeah.
that was my first interaction with wrestling.
So then, how did because I know you are not, because I've known you for quite a lot of years now, and I know that you do not follow WWE that much nowadays. So how did you like get into following other promotions? Because WWE, a lot of people might even not know that there are other promotions other than WWE. So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
did you like find those out, and how when did you feel like these are the promotions that I should be following rather than what WWE is offering right now?
Dude, so like I remember when the Ruthless Aggression era started on some channels on the cable network,
Yeah.
they used to show
Did you
TN.
guys have 10 Sports there? Because I remember
Yeah,
10 Sports
yeah,
was probably a
yeah, yeah.
Pakistani channel that we also had, and it used to air WWE on a
Yeah,
regular
like
basis.
I don't know if it's Pakistani or not, like, but I think it's based in the UAE, like it's Pakistanis,
All
Indians
right.
working in it or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ten Sports used to show WWE, and
Yeah.
I don't remember which channel showed WWEF before Ten Sports actually, and
Yeah.
which channel showed
For
WCW.
us, it was our local. We had our national channel, Bangladesh Television.
Okay.
For us,
Oh
it
wow.
was that they used
Oh
to do
wow.
it.
That's interesting. So they were showing professional wrestling on the national television of Bangladesh.
National television. Yeah, man.
Wow,
So
that's
it was
crazy.
crazy. We used to get they used to air a lot of good shit too. They used to air this series called The Knight Rider,
Yeah.
series like MacGyver, and then
Whoa.
I think a lot of DC series too at that time. I don't remember. I think. But they used to, and there was also things like Sinbad and shit. Other shitty things that I mean, you won't relate to that much. So
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
wasn't interested in them, but
yeah.
I was very into WWE and then Knight Rider and all those shit. But at that time, they didn't used to follow the schedule, obviously, the WWE
Okay.
schedule. I mean, by the time they used to air the matches, it was
Yeah,
already
yeah.
done. It was probably the
They
match
were
was already,
two
I
weeks
mean,
old, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah. Cool, cool. Nice, man.
So how did you like get into the other promotions, man?
Yeah, like I was saying, like we had like TNA. They were showing TNA on some channels. I
Yeah.
think Star Sports or
Yeah,
something.
yes, man. TNA on yeah, Star Sports. TNA on Star
I
Sports. Yeah,
remember, dude, like it was the second or first episode of NWA TNA, and it was the
yeah.
X Division title match going on where there were like four guys in the ring, and one of them was AJ Styles. I think one of them was Christopher Daniels. One of them was maybe
Great
Loki.
guys, man.
I don't remember, but I do remember one thing. Um, AJ Styles did the spiral tap, the corkscrew, whatever, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
holy
yeah.
fucking shit, what the fuck is this? Like, why don't I see this
I
kind of
love this guy. I love
WWE?
this wrestler, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah. Nowadays, people like hate high flying wrestling a lot because it's everywhere, but at the time, it was like,
It's everywhere.
it was fresh, like, yeah, obviously it's
Only a
WCW.
few people were doing that. Only a few people were doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And even the WCW Cruiserweight division, if you look back at those matches, even those so called high flying guys,
Yeah,
like aren't really
yeah,
high flying by today's standards. They are more technical wrestlers.
no,
Like Timo Dragon is doing some
yeah,
technical moves. Jericho is doing technical moves. Eddie Guerrero was like a
technical
really
moves.
strong technical wrestler as
Yeah,
well, you know. And yeah, that was
yeah,
that was like a very great era of cruiserweight wrestling. But these what the X Division guys
yeah,
did, you know, it was very very fresh for that time, in my opinion at least.
yeah.
So I started following
And TNA was great
NWA.
at that time, and TNA had
Yeah,
a great roster at that time. And I believe that
yeah,
that was
yeah,
the golden generation for TNA. I mean, there were some great wrestlers.
yeah. I remember like my favorite time of TNA was when like Samoa Joe had that unbeaten, undefeated run, and AJ Styles was a
Oh
big,
my God,
big
yeah,
time performer. Yeah, and those King of
yeah,
the Mountain matches were really good. You know, like, and then Christian Cage came in, and at first I was like, you know, what the fuck is this old WWE guy gonna do? You know, like
yeah,
I always
yeah.
hated him in WWE. You know, like
And then there was also Raven at one point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that Christian Cage title run, I think, is one of the
Yeah,
best title runs in like post what do you call it, post Monday Night War, you know, very underrated
yeah,
title
yeah,
and a really really strong.
yeah,
Like he really elevated the company at that time. But I think
yeah.
when Kurt Angle came though, the company started going down. That which is kind of shitty to say, I guess, because
Yeah, I believe when Kurt Angle and Ric Flair,
yeah, yeah,
Hogan took over, it really the things. I totally agree with you, man. The things
yeah.
really went downhill from there for
Yeah,
TNA.
like I was so upset to see like you know these guys like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles losing to Kurt, you know, and like even Christian never had a strong world title reign again after that in TNA. So the company just really
Yeah,
lost its way, and I lost interest in TNA. I already lost interest in WWE,
yeah,
and then I got into like
yeah,
deathmatch wrestling, like CZW, and I had a
yeah,
friend who like he was not exactly a tape trader, more like a DVD trader, and he was like a
yeah.
vocalist in the death metal scene for the band Corpse Fire, and he used to give me
Okay.
these DVDs and CDs of wrestling matches from Japan, America, and all these different places. So that's when I really started to know of all these different promotions.
So, uh, I mean, WWE has always been, I mean, the major promotion. They have always, WWE has always set the standards. I don't know if I can say that right now because it has all been going shitty right now. But what do you think was the moment, what was the moment when you actually thought that WWE was not catering to your wrestling needs, or the storylines were not engaging? What was the moment
Like,
when you
dude,
thought this is not for me now?
like I remember finding it boring in around 2005, 6 or 4 maybe, right? But I still kept watching up until like that CM Punk storyline, you know, like when
Yeah,
CM Punk uh, was gonna win the title and then take it out of
yeah,
WWE.
yeah,
Like that.
yeah,
Like up until the
and do
moment,
that whole ROH angle again.
yeah, up until CM Punk won the title, it was great, and I thought WWE is
Yeah,
gonna go good. But then I think Kevin Nash came and he did some fucking bullshit, no
yeah,
storyline,
yeah, man.
and I was just like, you know what, fuck
And it
wrestling.
was
I just
crazy.
stopped
I mean,
watching.
and it was crazy how they kept on screwing CM Punk over and over and over again. It was crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah, like, and after that, I just stopped watching wrestling completely, you know, like, and I didn't have any access
Yeah, man.
anymore to watch Ring of Honor or CZW or whatever, you know. So I just lost interest in wrestling until like many years later.
Yeah. So now, what do you? So speaking of CM Punk, I mean, he is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So
Right.
what is your view of him? Because he has been kind of a polarizing wrestler in a sense, because all the indie wrestlers that we see in the big leagues now,
Yeah.
it was after what it was mainly it was because of what CM Punk did. And after that, then came Daniel Bryan. Then there are other wrestlers now. Then there are Seth Rollins. Then we
Yeah,
have the
yeah.
new sensations like Will Ospreay, Orange Cassidy, people like that. And we all, and then there is Kevin Steen, who is now known as Kevin Owens. So, what are your views on CM Punk?
Yeah, like I think you also have to realize though that CM Punk wasn't the first outside WWE guy to come
No,
to
no,
WWE
of course,
and
no.
and make and like set a standard there. Like I think
I think in
WWE.
that sense, that would be the first guy who would be the biggest, the most successful rebel of WWE. Would that in that sense would be Chris Jericho, because he was a WCW guy.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
he was
and he was
also in
also a Japan guy too.
ECW.
Yeah, yeah, and he had been in
Yeah,
Japan
he was
too.
also in Japan fighting as Lionheart with Chris
Yeah, yeah.
Benoit. Great
He was,
matches with Chris
yep,
Benoit.
he was a fantastic wrestler there. But yeah, like even going back to the 80s, man, like when the WWE got big, they got big by getting all the big names from all the other NWA territories, right? And so
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
so this wasn't a very, like, I think historically not a very new thing, but in the terms of the
yeah,
context of that time in the post Monday Night War era, in which there's no competition,
yeah,
there's no NWA territories, there's just a lot of indie promotions, and some indie promotions like Ring
yeah,
of Honor and PWG got big, because of guys like CM Punk and Bryan Danielson's work.
yeah,
So
yeah,
in that context, it's I guess special and everything. I think CM Punk though I've been watching like since I started doing my research on wrestling, um,
yeah,
or for my anthropology course. I started rewatching old CM Punk matches to really like because when you're a kid and you're watching those matches, you're
yeah. You don't get that. You don't actually get the
yeah,
matches.
you get the characters and all that stuff more.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
understand the matches as like a wrestling connoisseur or whatever.
yeah,
And I think CM Punk was amazing for for one specific reason. He was able to take the style of what was happening in like All Japan Pro Wrestling in the 90s and fuse it with like American
yeah,
indie wrestling and like help make it kind of the Ring of Honor style, the old Ring of Honor style when they were like
yeah.
more kind of influenced by Japanese wrestling like All Japan. So
Japanese wrestling. Yeah,
so I think CM Punk is amazing for that. Like he kind of pioneered a really interesting style in Ring of Honor, and that style is still influencing everyone to this day.
yeah, yeah. So these days there has been a lot of indie wrestlers. We all know, and I love this guy called Will Ospreay. I
Yeah,
Then there are wrestlers like Okada. Then there is Switchblade. And what do you think of the New Japan pro wrestling scene
yeah.
at this moment? What do you think of the wrestlers and
Like
how?
I
I mean, I think you follow the New Japan
yeah
more
yeah
than the other
I
promotions.
follow I follow only New Japan, and
New Japan. So
right now
what do you think is?
I think New Japan is in kind of a transition slash
Yeah,
identity shift almost. I'm not an expert. Don't take my word for it. Uh, but
yeah.
speaking as a fan,
Neither
right,
am I.
like aware of the history of
Yeah,
New Japan and everything, like basically like around around the time when Gedo became their head booker, New Japan
yeah,
we're trying to create a new style of wrestling, like because strong style had died out after that MMA experiment that Inoki had did,
yeah,
and then New Japan
yeah,
were just going around trying to figure out their style. And in all that time in the 2000s, the biggest promotion in Japan was not New Japan, it was Pro Wrestling Noah. And Pro Wrestling Noah
pro
was made
wrestling. Yeah,
by old All Japan Pro Wrestling guys who took the All Japan
yeah,
style and just revved it to the max. So that style of wrestling was actually the style of wrestling which you see in New Japan now. The finisher reversals, the big the
yeah,
chest chops, and the fighting spirit parts. Actual strong style wrestling is not what New Japan does now. It used to
yeah,
be in the 90s strong style. It was more. I think the truest strong style wrestler in New Japan is actually Zack Sabre Jr. The strong style is a submission style, right? But
yeah.
khair,
Of course.
so New Japan built up their new style in the Gedo era by taking the what do you call it, the Noah style and giving it like a New Japan character treatment. Like New Japan always has
Yeah,
had more.
had their own shit
Yeah,
going
like
on. And
people.
they're also, and New Japan, and the wrestlers are also appearing in other promotions too nowadays. I mean, you see
Yeah,
New
yeah, yeah,
Japan. Kenta, he appeared in an episode with AEW. He is, and then AEW is collaborating with Impact. How
yeah.
I mean,
Like
what is your reaction to
that's
all of
what
this happening?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like like New Japan in the Gedo era, they had already built up a lot of connections with a lot of promotions, and they promoted new style of New Japan wrestling across the world through that. So nowadays, I think they they are doing all this stuff with Impact, etc., and it's affected their product in a way.
yeah.
Like somehow you are seeing a bit more sports entertainment stuff in their shows nowadays, and I hope they
I
cut
mean,
it
they're
out.
getting into the North America side, because when you are being seen on the American television, when you are in
Yeah,
AEW, when a
yeah, but
Japanese wrestler
here's
is
the
on
thing.
AEW, or
Nor
in,
I doubt that North American fans want to see sports entertainment from New Japan. They're watching it because
yeah,
it's the alternative to sports entertainment. And like
yeah,
New Japan is also doing entertainment. It's also entertaining people, and there are also some comedic parts in
yeah,
New Japan too. But it's always been done a lot more tastefully compared to American style, which is a lot more circusy. So nowadays you have some strange storylines going on, strange gimmicks in New Japan, and I hope they get
yeah.
back in gear because Pro Wrestling Noah is doing really good. So yeah.
And I was really happy to see Will Ospreay win the title. And what was the reaction to him winning taking the title?
But honestly, I wish they would have let Ibushi have the title for a longer time. Like
Yeah,
it feels weird seeing the IWGP title switch hands so often. Like we're used to those long reigns for it, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, they had really long reigns. I mean, I remember
yeah,
Nakamura had a fantastic reign. I mean, that Nakamura was undoubtedly the wrestler that got me into NJPW. I mean, he was a phenomenal
yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
the AJ Styles came in, and then when AJ Styles and Finn Balor, the wrestlers like them came in, it was
yeah, yeah,
New
yeah.
Japan. I was totally into New Japan.
Yeah, yeah, they were like that. All that stuff I've had to see in retrospect because I got back into wrestling through New Japan like 2 or 3 years ago, right? So I
Yeah,
missed the whole
yeah.
Finn Balor, AJ Styles era, right? I came in at the Switchblade era, you could say. But
Respect
I've
era.
watched
Yeah,
all that stuff, all that background stuff. I have a New Japan World account, and yeah, like it
yeah.
was a crazy, crazy era. Like definitely.
Yeah, man. And do you feel like this new alliance that these promotions have? I mean, AEW, Ring of Honor, uh, Impact, and then NJPW, and there are also smaller promotions like Rev Pro. I mean, Will Ospreay is
Yeah, yeah,
also
yeah,
holding a title from the Rev Pro promotion. Do you
like
feel like this union is a threat to WWE, or do you feel like WWE is too big of a
I don't,
of an
I
animal
don't.
to right now?
It's a real union, like because NJPW already has its wing of promotions, right? NJPW's
Yeah,
alliance is with Ring of Honor, with Rev Pro, with CMLL from Mexico, I think, right? And
Mexico. Yeah,
yes, so they have like these bases in the UK and North America already for a long time. Uh, from
yeah,
2000, not even 2012, I think for a long time, NJPW has been doing
yeah,
like tours in these different places. And
yeah, yeah.
I don't know the exact dates or whatever, but I do know that in even Zack Sabre Jr., he was defending the Rev Pro title in New Japan, right? New
No,
Japan
I
wrestlers
remember. I remember
shows. Dude,
NJPW's wrestler showing up in Ring of Honor too, man.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
has
and
been
the Ring
doing
of
quite
Honor
a lot. You
title,
must have seen
the Ring of Honor titles were defended on the Wrestle Kingdom and other New Japan events as well. So
Wrestle Kingdom.
New Japan has always been doing this. Like actually alliances are very normal thing in wrestling. What's not normal
Yeah,
in wrestling is having one company having a big monopoly.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that for me is the thing. And this kind of like this new alliance that they've made between Impact and like AEW, and I don't believe
AEW.
I don't believe New Japan is a like a proper part of it. Like New
Yeah,
Japan have their own business interest and everything, but everyone loves to make a little bit of money, right? Especially in the wrestling industry. So
yeah, yeah,
it's and they will probably in their own way, in their own style, they will do some kind of collaboration with AEW again, maybe. I don't know because John
yeah,
Moxley is still a US champion. So let's see.
yeah. And John Moxley also has a upcoming match with Nick Gage, man. A death match with Nick Gage, and it's really pumped me
Oh,
up. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, to be honest, man, I'm not the biggest John Moxley fan. Like, I
Neither
feel
am I. Neither am I. But I only like. I feel like this guy deserves to be in the death match scene only, and not in the uh, not in AEW or any other promotions, because I feel like the wrestling style that he has, it doesn't. It's not that much of that much of appealing
yeah,
to
like
us wrestling fans,
hmm,
and also his character is so confusing. I wasn't a fan of his Dean Ambrose character, and still
that
not a
was a horrible
fan
gimmick.
of the.
Whatever I've seen of Dean
Yeah, it was a
Ambrose.
horrible gimmick. And now as John Moxley, I'm still not a big fan. I don't
Like,
understand all the fuss.
I feel like I should be really excited for John Moxley matches, right? Because his promos are good.
Yeah,
His character is really
yeah,
interesting. Whatever, he's got this Raven meets Stone Cold meets the Sandman thing going on, right? But his
yeah,
matches are so boring, and I feel like being a deathmatch wrestler should not be an excuse because Mick Foley was a deathmatch wrestler. He put on some entertaining
yeah,
singles matches, some
yeah,
really good
yeah,
non-hardcore, non-weapons matches. He put on some really good ones too.
yeah,
Uh, Raven,
yeah.
Tommy Dreamer, all
He
these
was
guys,
amazing, man.
Rob Van Dam, all these guys were capable of doing good matches too, And
Yeah,
dude, even guys like who's that? Adam Cole. Adam Cole has also wrestled in
Adam
CZW.
Cole,
Chris Hero,
CZW.
yeah, he's also wrestled in CZW. So I think we should not be excusing John Moxley, just because he is
Yeah,
deathmatch background. He should be doing better, but I'm not a professional wrestler. It's, I can't
yeah,
I can't say who
yeah.
should be doing better or not. But as a wrestling fan, I don't buy into his hype.
So I'm coming back to my the question that I asked. So
Yeah.
if AEW is now a big thing, I mean,
Hmm.
it has been almost over 20 years. WWE has had a legit competition. I mean, back then it was WCW, the Invasion era, and then they took in ECW, and they had their own rebranding of ECW, which was so horrible. But I was happy because it brought in quite a lot of wrestlers into the main roster of Raw and SmackDown. But then again, keeping that aside, we have AEW now. We have big names from WWE, Arn Anderson, Chris Jericho, going
Yeah.
over there. Now they have also signed Sting. Do you think AEW will one day be able to beat WWE in terms of in terms of popularity and all the money they are making right now?
I don't think they need to beat them. I think all they need to do is just carve out their own niche. Like if
Yeah,
they try to beat them, they're going to fail. That's obvious. They
yeah.
don't have they are not big enough to go ahead with them.
Because
So
WWE has become a lot big with
yeah, yeah,
time,
yeah,
and it has been a very old company. It has, I mean, WWE has had eras, the attitude eras, the
yeah,
ruthless aggression era. So
yeah.
AW needs to catch up a lot. But do you feel like with the star power and the money behind AEW, it is still possible to catch up with the quality
I
WWE has right now?
I think one great thing that AEW has done so far is build its their own stars. Like go back before AEW was made. Would MJF
Yeah,
ring any bells in you? No. Would
no,
you would
no.
you care
But
about
now
Orange
I think
Cassidy?
he's one of the most interesting heels to watch.
Exactly. I think he's far more entertaining than any promo guy I've seen in the WWE. To be honest, whenever I've randomly watched
Yeah,
WWE promo, like as part of my research or whatever, I've been bored to death.
yeah,
But when I go see this guy MJF, like the mic is like butter in his hands. He knows how to.
yeah,
He makes you hate him. You know,
yeah,
that's such a
yeah,
rare thing in heels today in the era when kayfabe and reality is blurred. You can't really hate wrestlers anymore, but this guy makes you hate
yeah,
him.
yeah,
So, but yeah, like
yeah,
Orange guys like Orange Cassidy. Like I hate Orange Cassidy. I hate what he stands for. Blah blah blah. But he's a name
yeah,
now.
yeah,
People know about him. He's a draw.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I could go
Then
on
we
like
also have Darby Allen. We also have Darby
Darby
Allen
Allin.
and other so many
Even
cool
even the
names right
old
now. But the
WWE
problem
guys.
is right now,
Yeah,
yeah, man.
yeah. Go on.
I feel like the problem with these wrestlers right now, these are really talented wrestlers.
Yeah,
Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, MJF, you have Brian Cage. These are really talented wrestlers. But what
yeah,
they lack is the experience in performing wrestling moves and all, and conducting all those matches live on live television,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
performing in front of all those cameras. I think they lack that, the
yeah,
experience. And I think AW has done a fantastic job in bringing guys like Jericho's and Sting and all these veteran wrestlers to like train them properly. But
yeah,
for me, I think AW needs to do their own thing and not focus on beating WWE or getting in any competition with WWE, because that would eventually be a failure. I mean, look at TNA, look at what Impact
yeah,
has
yeah.
become. It is not, Impact isn't, Impact doesn't attract me anymore because it's really painful to watch. I mean, even the camera angle is very uneasy for me.
It's horrible, and
But
it feels like
AW,
WWE
yeah,
now.
man. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
And but AEW is doing. I feel like they lack the experience, and with time they will reach up to a very big promotion in the North America. But I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
WWE, they should not go with a fight against WWE. And I feel like the WWE, a lot of AEW wrestlers might also go to WWE at one point. I see Orange Cassidy because the type of character that this guy has, it actually fits with WWE.
yeah.
With the North,
There's a
it's
lot of
very
people.
he's
Yes, the
very
yes,
popular.
yeah.
And then there is MJF. So I
But like
think
what
they
you're
might go to
saying about their
WWE.
experience, what you're saying about their experience, what I like about AEW is that um, I have criticized them a lot at many points, and one thing I've noticed is
Yeah,
that unlike WWE, they are actually listening to criticisms. You know, even the wrestlers individually, like
yeah,
characters like Dr. Britt Baker, they were fucking boring. I didn't want to watch them. I thought they were
yeah, man.
horrible. Now they're
Yeah,
one of the characters that I love to watch, and you see that
yeah,
AEW cares a lot about improving stuff. A lot of the wrestlers that seemed green, they end up like working on their exact flaws and getting better at it. So that's one good thing I see in AEW, and I think if they continue to just focus on creating their own kayfabe universe, separate from the
yeah.
WWE, I think they will. They're gonna do well. Because even
What do you think?
compared to
Yeah,
TNA, doing old WWE and WCW guys, TNA
yeah,
used them horribly, but with AEW, you can see they're using them in a tasteful way. Like
yeah.
FTR doesn't feel like their WWE incarnation. Like I've even forgotten their WWE name at this point. Honestly, I don't even
Yeah.
remember. I call them FTR now.
No.
So
Yeah,
like,
man. Yeah.
and a lot of like even
They're
Chris
not
Jericho.
revival.
Jericho in WWE and Chris Jericho in AEW at the start, the inner circle, even John Moxley, like Dean Ambrose, huge difference, like they are taking old WWE guys, but they're doing it in a much, much more tasteful way, I believe.
But I think with this has a lot to do with Jericho rather than Cody Rhodes. He gets a lot of credit. Yes, and he deserves a lot of credit for
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
he is doing. But I think
Absolutely.
this has a lot to do with Jericho because Jericho is the guy who has always been reinventing himself, tweaking his character, changing his moves, doing this and that. I think it has a lot to do with Jericho, and then giving credit to guys like Cody Rhodes. No disrespect to him, he's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
wrestler, but I really don't feel uh, the hype, around him.
Yeah,
What
I,
are
I,
your views on Cody
I
Rhodes?
think Cody Rhodes is hands down the best wrestler in AEW, and
Yeah,
maybe like probably one of the best American wrestlers, right, around.
yeah,
Like what
yeah,
what his special thing is that he is able to make the crowd care for him. Like
yeah.
he's always
But I
doing
think at
some
times he
good
goes
story.
way over. I mean, when he did that angle where he crushed when he crushed the throne. I mean, the throne that Triple H used to use,
Yeah,
and still uses sometimes. He crushed the throne. I think that was a bit. It was a bit very
yeah,
much
but that
cringy to me.
that happened like
But
once.
I think that was really unnecessary. Yeah, I feel like that was really unnecessary, and he didn't need to do that because because that would be a bigger statement if he kept on doing his own thing and not give a shit about WWE. It would have been more badass.
Yeah, like that just happened once, you know, like they haven't made it a point to make point out WWE all the time. They actually avoided a
Yeah, yeah,
10% time. But look, bro, the thing is, WWE got big by insulting the fuck out of other promotions. If you look at the history,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
they really
of course.
played dirty. Like whatever AEW uh, does time to time, you know, as a crude joke, it doesn't even compare to the stuff that's on
Yeah,
Vince McMahon's hand. So I don't really
yeah,
care about a little throne being destroyed. And you have to
yeah,
think about it, man. Triple H really held his career back. If you were in Cody's shoes and you wanted
yeah,
to create, like, think about this way: you have an opinion on it. If he didn't have
yeah,
done that, then you would not have any opinion or any kind of thing towards it. You know, he's created something that people are
yeah,
going to talk about
yeah,
forever. So and
yeah,
that's what wrestling is about.
yeah. And I think his theme song, what he says at the beginning of the theme song, that wrestling has more than one royal family, and I think it goes with him. But I'm still not a big fan of Cody Rhodes, but I will still give him credit for what he has done, what he has, if he and Young Bucks have achieved over the years, man.
Yeah, like I'm not the biggest fan of the Young Bucks though. Like, tried hard to like
Yeah,
them. They have good matches if
I
they
feel
have good.
like they try too hard. Feel like they're trying to be the old school Hardy Boys. I'm not sure sometimes, but
Yeah.
I just don't connect with the Young Bucks. Neither with Cody Rhodes. I just don't connect with them, but they are good wrestlers. They're fantastic wrestlers.
Like like Hardy Boys, they made you like feel emotions in their match.
Yeah,
The Young Bucks have only done that a couple of times. When they've done it, it's been really great. Like the
very
match
great.
with Hassan and Kenny Omega. But normally, like,
Yeah,
they're just not the biggest fan of their matches. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
So you are now doing a research, I mean, on pro wrestling, if I'm not mistaken.
yep, exactly.
Yeah. So why did you take up a subject like pro wrestling while doing research? Why was pro wrestling the first thing that came to your mind, or was it not the first thing?
Ah, it's a good question, man. That's a very good question. I think because of the lockdown, I was just watching a lot of wrestling, and I thought that
Yeah,
is an interesting thing to do research on. Not a lot of people have done proper academic research on pro wrestling. You know, like same thing with my music. I always try
yeah,
to do something that other people aren't doing. So
yeah,
I'm particularly interested in the relationship between kayfabe and reality. You know, it's a
yeah,
very strange thin line. You know, as wrestling fans, we are
yeah,
living both in kayfabe and in the real world at the same time, especially nowadays
yeah.
on social media.
Especially nowadays on social media, that was what I was coming to. I mean, it is
Mhm.
very hard to maintain the kayfabe. I mean, like guys like Undertaker. At one point, I used to believe he was actually dead,
Yeah,
but it's not the case right now. We know who Bray Wyatt is. We know who Rey Mysterio is. We all know who these guys are. So, yeah, it's very
yeah.
different nowadays,
But
and it's very appealing.
at the same time, people find ways to maintain kayfabe through social media as
Yeah,
well. Like, for example, you never know if an argument between two wrestlers on Twitter or some podcast is a work or something serious. You know, you're always thinking like, is this gonna lead to a match? Is that they just making a fake beef? You know, stuff like that. So
yeah, yeah,
like even dude, when television came, people said when television deals became like more prominent, like Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro and all, people said it's the death of kayfabe, right? But it wasn't. It just
yeah,
allowed kayfabe to evolve in a completely different way. And me and you were
yeah,
we were brought up in that time, right? So we're seeing another technological shift. You know, we're probably like those
yeah,
old people from the 70s and 80s
yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, who have watched the entire transition,
Yeah, yeah,
wrestling coming to TVs and all.
yeah,
But
yeah.
do you feel like like a lot of people say, I see these in a lot of groups nowadays, that wrestling is dead after the Attitude Era. Do you feel the same way? Because I don't. I think during the Attitude Era, it was a lot more about the character and and storytelling more than wrestling.
Yeah, yeah.
And wrestling nowadays has become a lot more technical and a lot more enjoyable to watch the
Like
matches.
I think I agree with Jim Cornette on something, which is
Yeah,
the Monday Night Wars killed professional wrestling, right? It wasn't the
yeah,
ruthless aggression, it wasn't the PG era. That shit happened way before. And I
yeah,
completely agree with Jim Cornette on that, right? And I'll tell you why. Like,
yeah,
there was wrestling on television before, like, syndicated national television. Jim
yeah,
Cornette talks a lot about it. Like, territories
yeah,
would have their own specific time slots, and it wasn't the way we see it today as a TV show, right? It wasn't a specific, oh, this is the intro, this is the blah blah blah. It was just random matches together with some promos, backstage, or like interviews or whatever. this
yeah,
this whole format, this television format, like turning a sport into a television show, a soap
yeah,
opera of sorts, is what killed pro wrestling, right? In my
yeah,
honest opinion, and but it didn't really kill it everywhere, because we have to remember that in Japan, they to this day they follow the sports style presentation of the old 70s and 80s NWA promotions.
yeah, yeah,
So in America, definitely. In the UK, definitely, like that. The Attitude Era killed professional wrestling, in my opinion.
yeah. So, man, we have almost come to the end of the podcast.
Yup.
So, uh, anything you want to say to your fans that you have, and anything about the wrestling, anything you want to say, anything, man, anything you have in your mind,
Uh,
anything new coming from multinational corporations or Daranti Group, and what are you up to
yeah,
with
just
new
follow the
releases?
pages. Just stay updated. We're making music on all fronts. Let's see what comes out.
And when is your band from Germany debuting?
Whenever this lockdown opens and we can hit the studio and record. It's
Yeah,
not
man.
like Pakistan, where we can sit at our homes and record at Shiraz's place. Here we have
Yeah,
to
man.
studios and get that studio time and all that shit.
Yeah, it's tougher. Do you feel like it's tough out there?
Yeah, it's different. You get used to it. It's easier in a way, but
Yeah.
here here it costs more money, I
But
guess, because
is it tough
rent
to
is more
stand
there.
out?
What?
Is it tough to stand out because there are a lot of bands comparatively than here than in South Asia. There are
Dude,
a lot more bands there.
dude,
Do you feel it's
I think when a big fat Pakistani guy in a shalwar kameez steps up on stage, it stand out.
it looks yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, man.
So yeah, man, looking forward to your releases, man, and thank you for coming to
Yo,
the show. It's been
cheers, bro.
fun talking with
Cheers,
you, man.
cheers. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, man, and I'll be waiting for the new releases, man.
Yo, bro. Cheers.
Yeah, man. So thank you. You've been listening to the Snotbear podcast, and this is Uzlan signing out.